Hello there, and thanks for joining me again today on Psychology for Today. Now, that's a particularly important topic and title of this program because what I've done is looked at some of the areas of research in the areas of psychology and looked at the problems that we face in our society and try to put those two together. And today we have a very special emphasis upon grandparents. Grandparents play a very critical role in the life of families, but particularly in the life of their grandchildren. I'd like to focus on that, today. So if you're a grandparent, you're in the right program. If you want to get a grandparent to come to the television screen and watch the program, that'd be a good thing to do today, or forward it on and watch it together as a family later on. This is a very important topic for family life, but particularly the role of grandparents in the life of a family. Families are under stress today, there's no doubt about it. Families are experiencing events and tragedies and traumas and crises that have never happened before, and had to make decisions that we've not had to do before. So we're not experienced, we're not skilled at that as grandparents. So what's the role of the grandparent? How can the grandparent help family life and help the life of our children? Now, some time ago, several years back, I wrote a book. And the book was entitled, Doctor, Teach Me to Parent. And this particular book is a critical book. It's been a good book. It's been a good selling book for parents. The mistake I made in this book when I wrote it was I didn't write a chapter for grandparents. So I'm trying to catch up on that a little bit today by adding a chapter to this book on grandparents and asking you to kind of look at it, how it fits into your family life and how it fits into your structure as a family and incorporating grandparents into your life. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, today. So, Doctor, Teach Me to Grandparent is really the topic of today. Now, I'm a grandparent. I have 8 grandchildren. In fact, we just came back from a cruise to Alaska. Packed up all the kids and all the parents, and as an extended family, we took off and flew up to Anchorage and came on down in the boat, and we had a joyous time together, a wonderful time together as a family and as an extended family, and my wife and I with our 8 grandchildren. And the thing about that, what it gives you time is that you can sit and you can talk to your kids. You can talk to your grandkids like you never talk otherwise. You don't have time for it. So throughout the whole trip of 7 days, I took it upon myself to particularly focus on one kid at a time and spend some quality conversational time with each of my grandchildren, each of the 8 grandchildren that came with us. One grandkid was 2 hours in length of great in-depth conversation that otherwise we probably would never have had in just daily life and daily course of life. But that's what grandparents do. They devote time to their grandkids. They get to know their grandkids. They get to play a role in the life of the grandkids. They give input into the life of the grandkids, their decisions, their plans, their future. And you become a family, as you do that. So I recommend it, as a way to build that bond, build that course of connection between you and your grandchildren, you and your extended family, by taking some kind of an extended trip. It could be a car trip, it could be a cruise, sure, it could be that. It could be an airplane ride, it could be a camping trip, it could be a long hike. It could be mountain climbing, it could be anything. Doesn't matter what it is. The important thing is that there's time and that you devote time to your grandkids. And they become the priority, not the boat, not the car, not the camping, not that. That's not the priority. That priority is the grandchildren, and whatever you do, it starts and ends the day as you connect with your grandchildren. So I encourage you to, if you're a grandparent, to make sure that you connect with your grandkids somehow every once in a while. It doesn't have to be every day, but every once in a while your grandkids come to focus in your life and you come to focus in their life. Now, we've done a lot of different things as a family to make sure our grandchildren are connected with us. We've set up 529 plans. These are our financial plans for our grandkids' education, their college education. We've set that up, and we want to make sure that we play a role in the decisions that our kids, our grandkids make, and the colleges they go to, and the careers that they eventually pursue. We're part of that as we become kind of the financial support of their education. Now, we can only do so much, but what we do, we contribute, and our kids appreciate that. Our grandkids appreciate that. So there's all these ways that you can connect with your kids. You go to their events. You go to their graduations. You go to their sporting events. You participate in every way you possibly can with your grandkids. You need to be part of their life, and you need to do the things that they do. It's important that grandkids do the things that you do. That's important. You invite them, you encourage them to participate with you, go places with you, and that. But it's more important that you do the things that your grandchildren participate in the experiences they have, and the events that they go to, and that they celebrate. You be part of their life. That's more important than the grandchildren be part of your life. So it's a matter of balance, but it certainly is a matter of priority. And I recommend that you, as grandparents, become part of your grandchildren's life, primarily in any way you possibly can. Some parents meet in parks and spend time together. Some, when you have kids far away, you drive halfway and you spend a day together, and you meet somewhere in the middle. I mean, parents do all kinds of things. They do Zoom. They meet with their grandkids by Zoom. They set up little Zoom sessions and meet with their grandkids. So you can do it. There's no excuse. When your grandkids are part of your life, they are enriched. You are enriched as a grandparent. So I recommend that you do whatever you can to make sure your grandparents, or you as a grandparent, become part of the life of your grandchildren. Now, let's take a look at some of the issues that relate to grandparenting, and some of the key factors that I think are very important that we understand as grandparents. And let me just tick off some of these things that are unique about grandparents, okay? First of all, grandparents have a historical perspective on life. They bring wisdom to the table. They bring wisdom to the conversation. They bring experience to the conversation they have with their grandchildren. It's right for you as a grandparent to tell stories of your life and tell stories to your grandkids of your life, and let them experience life as you lived life. And you do it through storytelling. You do it through telling of an incident, things that happened, funny things that happened, sad things that happened, stressful things that happened. But you bring to the life of the grandchild a historical perspective. What life was like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, or whatever it might be. Don't be afraid to give a historical perspective to kids. They need that. They have no other way to know history than through you and the stories that you tell as a grandparent. So historical perspective is a big, big contribution you play in the life of your grandkids. Then secondly, I say this: backbone. Grandma, grandpa, you're the backbone to your grandkids' life and to the life of their family. When stresses come, you're there to give support and strength. When they go through discouraging times, you're there to encourage. You're there to give support. You're there to give a word of opportunity, or of wisdom, or of the future, or options that they can take to solve problems, or whatever it might be. Be part of their life, because you're the backbone of the family. That's what grandparents are. That's the definition. Grandmother, grandfather is a backbone of family life. And then thirdly, let me say this. Grandparents are teachers in many different ways. We always think of the mother and the father as being the primary teacher of a parent, of a child. In fact, parents are the first teachers a child ever has. But I would add this: grandparents are probably as equal, if sometimes even more so, in the life of a child. The teacher in the life of a child. What does a grandparent teach? Well, one thing a grandparent teaches is giving, is charity giving. You know, you as a grandparent have over the years developed charitable organizations that you give money to. Now, help your grandkids do the same. One family I know gives the children an allowance. They get allowance every week. And what they do with that allowance, they have to take a certain portion of that out and give that to some charity organization that the kids want to give it to, whether it's the Salvation Army or it's the Rescue Mission or whatever it might be. Kids then on their own make a decision to give money to a charity. And that's how grandparents start teaching charitable giving, charitable contributions. There's lots of things that grandparents teach kids, but that's one, and that's a very important one, is helping kids know that they're a person who can be of help to other people, the homeless or whatever it might be. Kids can be of help through charitable giving, and you as a grandparent set the model. You as a grandparent set the example and prime the kids with the ability to make contributions. I know one family that gave a relatively large sum of money to each of their grandchildren. And the money was given with the idea of saying that they are to give a portion of that money to charity, and they were to invest a portion of that money. So they learned two lessons: what it's like to invest in the stock market or in property or whatever, and learn what it's like to give to charity. And over time, these kids spent that money investing it and giving it to charity and learning the lessons that are associated with giving and associated with contributions and investments. So grandparents, you play a great role. You can do very creative things. And doesn't matter how much money it is. If it's a little bit or a lot, you can contribute to the life of your grandchildren by teaching them some very, very important lessons. Then there's another way that I think grandparents contribute to the life of their children. It's called name recognition. Name recognition is this: that over the years of life as an adult, as a person, you become recognized for certain skills and certain abilities and certain contributions and certain ways that you lived your life. Your community knows you by name because of the way that you lived your life. Well, your grandchildren benefit from that. They have the same name, and they benefit from that, and they learn how to make a name for themselves as individuals. And maybe carry on your name in some particular way that you've established yourself as an individual. So bring kids into your life, into your community life, and where you have advanced the community, teach them to advance the community as well. You want that name recognition to continue on after your death as a grandparent. And then lastly, let me say this. Grandparents are encouragers and they're teachers. They encourage families. They encourage their children. When a family's in trouble or in need, they can consult you as the grandparent. And then by consulting you, you give your advice, you give your recommendations, you give your suggestions. You help them understand what they can do to get out of a problem or to solve a problem or to deal with a particular issue or to advance something or to be successful in something. Be available for consultation. Be available to be a wise person in the life of your grandchildren by teaching them ways of solving problems, ways of attacking problems, ways of taking on advanced stages of some kind of a project of some kind, to be successful, to advance, how to do things better. That's what your role is as a grandparent. You need to be that person who is consulted. You're the one that grandkids go to and say, Grandma, Grandpa, tell me, help me. How did you handle this situation? Tell me about it. So that you are there to be a person of support and encouragement, but also advice and guidance in the life of your grandkids. So make sure you're there, okay? Be on the spot. Be available to your grandkids. Now, you may not have heard this, but it's a rule. It's called Grandma's Rule. Have you ever heard of Grandma's Rule? Well, Grandma's Rule has served life over the years in America. And Grandma's Rule is very, very simple. First you eat your meal, then you have your dessert. First you eat your meal, then you go out and play. And I would add, in today's world, first you eat your meal, then you can play in your video. You see, there's first things first. There are things which are important. There are things that need to be done first, and then you play. Then you do the things that are enjoyable. It's like saying this to a kid. First you do your homework, then you can do your video. It's that order. It's that priority that you're setting as a grandparent. So grandma's rule is a good rule, and it's one that needs to come into our family life today and rule in our family life. Let grandma's rule prevail. Follow it. Use it. Tell your kids, first do your homework, then you play. Okay? That's grandma's rule, and make sure that you live as a family, you live by it, even for yourself as parents. Very, very important, okay? So, take a look at that phrase, grandma's rule. And I'm going to sit down on another desk and talk to you a little bit further about grandma and grandpa. Okay, here we are, and I want to make sure that you focus on this issue of the grandparent. We are a culture that encourages family life. We are a culture that thrives on family life. We like parents to be in the home. We like parents to be with children. Unfortunately, there are demands on the parent's life. We call it work demands, financial demands. And we have many, many kids at home without a parent being there primarily throughout the day and throughout the night because their parents are working. Hence, here comes the role of the grandparent. The grandparent can play a very significant role in the life of their grandkids because mom and dad are preoccupied with events such as work and other activities that they're engaged in. And grandma and grandpa can play a very effective role in that. But when you're with your grandkids, it's important to follow some ideas and some principles and some guidelines that help you raise your grandchildren to become effective and productive adults. Same thing you did when you were raising your own kids to become effective and productive adults. But here we're going to focus on just the grandkids. I want you to get the concept that grandkids rely on grandma and grandpa for a lot of support and a lot of involvement. And when it's not there, they miss it. It's a missing link in their life. So first of all, let me say this. Grandma and grandpa need to be actively committed to their grandchildren. Actively committed. It's not just a matter that you know your grandkids and that you follow their progress and that you know what they're doing in school. You know what they're doing with their friends. You know what they're doing on the weekends. That's important. But it's be actively committed. That's the key word. Actively committed. That means you do things with them. That means you take them and you participate with them in activities that they are engaged in over the weekends or in a school program of some kind. You go where your grandkids are. You watch your kids play baseball. You watch your grandkids play soccer. You watch your grandkids play volleyball. You get involved in their life. You're actively committed to your grandchildren. You do what they do. You see, this goes back to this same principle I said a little while ago. It's more important that you as a grandparent get involved in the life of your grandchildren than it is for your grandchildren to get involved in your life as a grandparent. It's a matter of emphasis. So number one is get actively committed to your grandkids. Let them know that you're in their life and you're in their experience and you want to be part of their life. You want to be part of their experience and you're going to add to it. You're going to add flavor to it. Here's number two. Actively get to know your grandkids. You know, you got to have those talks. Remember a little while ago I said I talked to my grandchild 2 hours. I learned enormous things about him. I didn't say very much in 2 hours. I talked a little bit, but he did the talking for 2 hours. That's what grandkids want in their life, is somebody who will listen. It's called a listening ear. And that's what you are as a grandparent. You're the listening ear in the life of your grandchildren. Listen to them. Ask them questions. Get them to talk. Get them to interact with you. Learn about them. Know who their friends are. Know what their interests are. Know what their hobbies are. Know what their goals are. Know what they're trying to achieve in life. You know, whatever it might be. But be part of the life of your grandkids in a very active kind of way. Get to know them personally. Not just things about them, but get to know them, get to know their heart, get to know their belief, get to know their faith, get to know their struggles, get to know their stresses, get to know their angers, get to know their anxieties, get to know where they feel depressed. Ask questions and get to know your grandkids. That's number 2. Here's number 3. Consistently demonstrate the attitude and behavior which you want your grandchildren to live out in their life and exude in their life and develop in their life. That's what you want. You live a life that you would like your grandchildren to live. You engage in behaviors that you want your grandchildren to behave in. You develop the habits that you want your grandchildren to develop. You live a life as an example, as a model to your grandkids, so that they will live according to the model that you present to them as a way to live life effectively and productively. Unfortunately, too many parents and too many grandparents live a life contrary to what we want for our grandchildren, to behave in manners that you don't want your kids to do, to have habits and addictions that you wouldn't want for your grandkids. And we do that as parents, we do that as grandparents. You can't do that. The point is, live a life in the way that you want your grandchildren to live a life as they mature and as they get older in age. So what is it that you want your grandkids to do? Do those things. What is it you don't want your grandkids to do? Don't do those things. And talk it up. Okay, here's another one that I think is very important. Faithfully provide and protect your grandchildren. They need to know that you're there to help them, to provide for them, and to protect them if they need protection. And I'm thinking of the kid who's bullied at school. Grandpa, go to school. Protect your grandkids. Stand there. Talk to the school administration. Do something to protect your kids from bully behavior. Maybe dad can't go because he's working. Mom can't go because she's working. You can go because you're the grandparent. And you may have time to do that. You protect those grandkids from the bullies in the playground. You do the things that are important so that your grandkids will succeed and not succumb to negativism and violence and addictive kind of behaviors that take place in school. If your kids are at risk, you meet your kids at school and take them home. You take your kids to school. Don't let them get involved in activities and with other kids that are highly addictive kind of kids and live a lifestyle of addiction. We don't want that. You don't want that. So grandparent, you got to provide for your kids. That's true. That's usually comes out in the form of a few bucks here and there. But also be willing and be available to protect them if they need, your protection as a grandparent. You're the adult. Stand in the gap. Be there so they know you'll back them up. Have their back. They need to know that. Okay? Now, here's another very important point for grandparents. Openly love the grandkids' parents. Nothing is better than that. Your grandkids need to know that you love their parents and that you want them to love their parents as well. Essential relationship within family life. You do that as a grandparent. Love your children, their parents, so that they get this model of what it's like to be in a loving family, in a loving relationship, from grandparent to parent to child and on down the line. Make sure that you are the loving grandparent in the life of your kids, but you're the loving parent to their parents. That's critical. Now, here's another one. Actively listen. Actively listen to your grandkids. Kids talk. You be there to listen. Ask questions. Promote talking. Promote discussion. And just listen. Listen more than you talk. You see, it's easy for us as adults to do all the talking. Ask all the questions, go into long, lengthy discussions on some topic, illustrate something, tell stories. We do that as adults. That's kind of the way that we are. We're verbal. But what grandkids need is for you to shut up and listen and let them talk and promote talking and you listening. That's the relationship that's critically important in the life of your grandkids. It's easy for us to do all the talking. Don't. Encourage talking, and you do learn to listen, if you will, okay? And then I'm going to add another one. Spiritually equip your grandchildren. That means go to church with them. That means go to church activities with them. That means go to religious concerts with them. Give your kids spiritual depth. Read the Bible to them. Tell them of Bible stories. Tell them of your experiences in the church and the experiences you've had as a child growing up and some of the good things that happened in your life as a result of the church that you went to and the pastors that you've had and the Sunday school teachers that you've had and the youth leaders that you've had and so on. Give your grandchildren a positive religious experience, a religious story, a religious experience and background based on what you've gone through. Very critically important to kids develop their own faith. It comes from their parents and it comes from you as grandparents and be part of their life. I'm going to add one more point to this. It happened to just come to me and I want to add to it and make it very important. Grandparents, don't get all confused in the roles that you play in the life of this family. You're the grandparent. You're not the parent. You're a support person. You're not the manager. You're not the coach. You're not the head of the family. You're not the decision maker. You're not the one that carries things out. That's mom's job. That's dad's job. Your job is to support them. Now, if you disagree with mom and dad, you can. No problem with that. But don't disagree in front of the children. Don't have that battle, that fight in front of the children. You wait till the children are gone to school or at some other time, and then you have a discussion with their parents about how things were handled or how things might be handled or some of the suggestions that you might have for them and how you may recommend that they handle certain things. But don't get involved in conflict in front of the kids with their parents. Worst thing you can do, because that says that you don't respect their parents and they won't respect their parents. So you don't want that kind of behavior to take place. So make sure that there's a consistency. Follow up on what the parents decide. If the parents make a decision to discipline, you enforce that. You go along with that. If you don't like it, then you talk to the parents at a time when they're in privacy. You can do that. But the important thing is that you back up their parents so that there's one voice, there's one mom, there's one dad. You cannot be the mom, you cannot be the dad. You're the grandparent. Different role, different purpose, different way that you relate to the kids and to the family. Don't give them all excuses. Don't work against the parent. You work with the parent. And if you don't like it, then you're going to have some kind of way that you and your children or you and their children's parents work things out and discuss and come together and have some kind of a mutual idea, a mutual theme. So there you are. That's grandparenting. Now, remember I said, get my book, Doctor Teach Me to Parent. That's a good start. That's a good start. Even though I don't have a chapter in it about grandparenting, it's a good start because even grandparents parent their children. Have the children's parents read the book. Use it as a guideline in family life. There are ways to handle children's behavior problems together, whether you're a grandparent or you're the parent. So a good book for you to get a hold of, www.booksbyhedberg.com, or you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and various places like that. So I recommend that particular book for you. But most of all, get the concept, will you, Grandma, Grandpa? You are an encourager, you're a supporter, you're a giver, you're the backbone of the family, you're the person that holds a great deal of responsibility for this whole family coming together and being successful. Do your part. Don't absent yourself. You have a gold mine in your children. I have 8. I have 8 gold mines. I don't know how many you have, but look at your kids as a gold mine and be part of that life. Be part of that gold mine and you benefit from it, they'll benefit from it. You can't beat it. Anyway, nice to have you with me today on Dr. Teach Me to Parent as a book and as a title of our program, Psychology for Today. So get the book and look for ways in which you can be effective in the life that you live today with your grandparents and your grandkids. Very important. Bye for now.